Every screen you've ever touched is the end of a long negotiation between a human hand and a machine's logic. And over time, the hand has been winning, one small convenience at a time. At first, computers didn't have a look. They had paper, and the interface was usually a human being carrying it like a verdict. A punched card didn't glow, but it did have a personality. It said, "Be precise, be patient, and please don't sneeze." Then engineers noticed a simple problem with a huge cost. If you can only see results after the machine finishes, you can't truly steer it while it works. So the glow arrived by borrowing a lab instrument, the cathode ray tube. Instead of waiting for paper, people could watch a machine think in real time. One early milestone was Whirlwind, operational in 1951, among the earliest real-time computer systems to use CRT-style display output. This wasn't a cozy monitor yet. It was closer to radar with responsibility. The screen turned into a live map of changing information. And once you have a live map, the next instinct is universal. Point to a thing and say, "That one." In systems like SAGE, operators could select targets by aiming a light gun at the CRT display, pointing at the data. The lesson was profound and very human. Less translation means fewer mistakes and more courage to experiment. By the 1960s and 1970s, many people met computers through terminals, a keyboard, a screen, and a blinking cursor. That cursor wasn't just a symbol, it was permission. This era was text first, but it wasn't primitive. It was a clean bargain. You speak in exact characters, the machine answers in exact characters. Calling it the command line makes it sound stern, like it wears a tie to breakfast. In practice, it was a very literal genie that punished sloppy wishes. Video terminals matured into a standard rhythm of interaction. Type, wait, read, adjust, like tuning an instrument by ear, except the instrument is logic. A famous example, the DEC VT100, introduced in 1978, helped standardize control sequences that managed screen behavior. Suddenly, the display wasn't just a page of text, it was a space you could arrange. That shift is easy to miss because it's invisible when it works. But it changed everything. The interface gained choreography. So the screen split into two layers. One layer was what you saw, and the other was the invisible set of rules that made seeing dependable. The turning point wasn't just better displays. It was the moment the screen stopped being a report and became a workspace. In 1963, Ivan Sutherland's Sketchpad made a daring claim. You could draw on a screen and the computer would understand the drawing. With a light pen on a CRT, a person could create shapes, constrain them, copy them, and edit them in real time. That was more than graphics. It was the birth of direct manipulation, the feeling that the thing on the screen is a thing you can handle. And then came a public moment that lit the fuse for modern computing. In 1968, Douglas Engelbart demonstrated interactive ideas like the mouse, windowed views, linking text, and collaborative editing. The mouse wasn't invented to be cute, because once you can see everything, the real problem becomes choosing. It was invented because the screen was getting too powerful to command purely with words. Around the early 1970s, pixels became a universal language. If everything is pixels, text, drawings, images, then everything can share one stage. At Xerox PARC, this became a new style of life with machines. The Xerox Alto introduced in 1973, is widely cited for pioneering a bitmapped display and a mouse-driven graphical interface. A few years later, Xerox tried to make the dream official. The Xerox Star, released in 1981, commercialized icons, folders, and the desktop metaphor as a way to navigate complexity. Soon, graphical interfaces reached personal computers at scale. Apple's Lisa arrived in 1983, the Macintosh in 1984, and Microsoft shipped Windows 1.0 in 1985. These weren't just product launches. They were an agreement. Computers would start meeting people where people already are. Eyes first, hands second, memory last. And no, the computer didn't become friendlier inside. It simply moved the difficulty behind the curtain, like a good theater that never shows you the ropes. And that choice shaped the next 40 years. The CRT was bright and fast, but it also had bulk and heat and depth. It took up space the way a grand piano does, with confidence and no apologies. Flat panels changed the geometry of everyday life. They made screens thin, portable, and suddenly willing to be everywhere. By 1968, RCA publicly showed early liquid crystal display prototypes, proof that flat panels weren't science fiction anymore. Work associated with George Heilmeyer helped demonstrate LCD effects could become practical displays. LCDs didn't conquer by being perfect. They conquered by being possible in places a CRT could never go. As standards spread, screens became more predictable across machines. IBM introduced VGA in 1987, and for years, VGA meant a shared baseline that countless systems could speak. Meanwhile, another display idea waited with patient confidence. In 1987, Tang and Van Slyke demonstrated the first practical OLED device, pointing toward panels that emit their own light. The important part isn't which acronym wins the comment section. It's that the screen stopped being a destination and became a companion. It moved from the place you go to compute to the surface you live beside, and that quietly prepared the next leap in interface. Once screens went thin, the next question was inevitable. If the display is right there, why should your hand stop at a mouse and keyboard? Early capacitive touch concepts are often credited to E.A. Johnson in the mid-1960s. The dream was directness. Touch the thing, move the thing. No translation tax. Multi-touch took longer because recognizing one finger is easy. But recognizing intent, 2 fingers, a palm, a gesture, a mistake, is the real problem. In 1982, researchers at the University of Toronto demonstrated an early multi-touch input system that could register multiple contact points. That sounds technical, but the human meaning is simple. The interface was learning our hands. Over time, touch stopped being a feature and became an expectation. And in 2007, the iPhone popularized a finger-first, multi-touch interface at massive scale, making gestures a daily grammar. Pinch to zoom is a small miracle we now perform without thought. It's also an admission. Our hands never wanted to be peripheral devices. Today, interface is larger than a screen. It's scrolling physics, accessibility features, haptics, voice input, and design choices that try to respect attention and fatigue. We talk about screens like they're rectangles of glass, but they're really borders, negotiated lines between human intention and machine possibility. And that border has been moving in one persistent direction: toward immediacy, toward clarity, toward tools that feel less like commands and more like conversation. The hopeful part is not that machines are becoming human. It's that we've been shaping the tools to fit the people using them. Eyes, hands, attention, and the will to try again. From paper and punch cards to touch and gestures, the screen became a window that learned to open from the inside. You're always welcome here, and remember, it's Illumentary.